in Kentucky right now visiting some of my wife's family, and I'm heading out this morning to go fishing. It is absolutely beautiful outside. It's like 56 degrees, sun's just coming up, it's 7:20 in the morning. I'm heading to a place called Good Water Ponds to go and check to see if there's any fishing out there. We've been working a lot this season. She's had weddings all year long, and the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 weekends, she's had a wedding every weekend, and we've just had so much going on that we wanted to get away. Especially, we both run our own businesses from home. We're home all day long. We're working all day long. It's kind of actually hard for either of us to really unplug from working, especially having 2 little kids that we want to spend time with and raise and do everything with. And so Lacey reached out to her cousins that live here in Kentucky, and they've allowed us to come out and visit them for a week. So we're out here going to spend some good quality time as a family and just relax and try to unplug as much as we can. These are the secrets to crappie and bluegill fishing, at least where I'm from. Gulp Alive and crappie bites. So if you're looking for some good, I don't want to say guaranteed bait for fishing, these 2 things together are a dynamic duo. This doesn't look to be too deep, so I don't know. I don't know if I need to throw a bobber on. Well, there hasn't even been so much as a nibble out here. So I don't know if this is a dud or I'm just not fishing with the right bait. So I'm gonna give it a couple more casts and see if I can move on somewhere else that might have a bit better fishing prospects. It is absolutely serene out here. I don't even have AirPods in, which is rare for me. I'm not listening to any audiobook or podcast. I am just out here hanging out. This is awesome. Okay, so a little story time. While my bobber's out there not bobbing because I don't think any fish exist in this pond. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm just a bad fisherman. I don't know. Anyways, so about 3 or 4 years ago, I was coming up on my 5-year anniversary at the bank that I was working for. And I remember hearing about, you get this little catalog to kind of choose a 5-year anniversary gift out of. And I was excited. I was, I'm wondering if there's really cool stuff in there. And I get the catalog and I started looking through it and I was like, man, this is all, stuff that I could order on Amazon for like $5 or $10. And I'm trying to make it clear, I was thankful. Like, I was thankful for the opportunity that I had been given to work at this bank, at this institution. I learned a lot through the process. But I remember there was one thing that stuck out to me, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna order it. And it was this little pocket knife. I've had this thing for, 4 or 5 years now, and I use it pretty often. But it started something in me that I hadn't expected, and I'm now seeing the results of and the culmination of as I've gone on 2 or 3 years since I worked there. And I think what it began to do in my mind was open up the opportunity of, God, I want something more for my life than this. I'm thankful, but never satisfied, right? I heard someone say that once, and that's kind of a motto that I've begun to live by is thankful but not satisfied. I'm thankful for everything God has done in my life, but God, if there's an opportunity to have more and build your kingdom, I'll do that. That's what I want. And so this little pocket knife kind of started me on the journey to where we are now. My wife and I have started businesses. We have a land investing business, and my wife has a successful wedding photography business. And it all started with asking the question of, God, is there more to this than what we're doing now? And I think God said yes. So when I was going to quit my job, I was nervous. I was very nervous. I was not sure what was going to happen. I remember the day I went to quit, I was praying, and I was just kind of talking to God about how nervous I was about this next step. And basically he said something to the effect of, like, if you knew the outcome of the journey, it wouldn't be called faith, it would be called knowing. And that sentence alone gave me the hope and the faith that I needed to continue to trust him in his provision. There's a passage in Jeremiah 17 that says, basically, blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose trust is in the Lord. He will be like a tree planted by streams of water, and in the heat he will not be anxious, and he will basically do nothing but produce. And that's what I want in my life. I want to be productive for the kingdom of God. I want my life to produce something that God can use to further his kingdom. And sometimes God has to call us to a place that we are not comfortable with in order to do that. And we walked through the doors. Every door that was open, every investment that needed to be made in order to do what we felt God was leading us to do, we did. And we've been very blessed by the benefits. In not monetarily necessarily, but more in just the opportunities to continue to build the kingdom of God. And if there's anything that we as Christians, as disciples, need to do, it is to build God's kingdom here on earth and to focus on that, not to build bigger barns, and not anything like that, but to seek to build his kingdom. In some sense, this pocket knife was the catalyst, I guess, for that mindset shift. And God really began to open up doors as we've trusted him. There's not an area in my life, I don't think, that I don't trust God's provision in. And the more I've given him opportunity to reveal his provision, the more he's done it. Our pastor's been saying lately, don't be surprised about the doors that God opens for you. And right now, I'm open. Whatever God has been giving me the ability or the opportunity to pursue, I'm pursuing it and just trusting that he will make up the difference. There's a passage in Galatians where Paul basically says to test the will of God. And man, if there's anything else that we as Christians need to do, is to test the will of God, to discern what his will is. We have to test it. But if you're not testing it and you're just waiting for this wide open door to appear, maybe you're missing something, and maybe God is calling you to a place where you have to test what he's calling you to, what you're feeling in the moment, and allow God to provide in the way that only he can, right? If you're a kingdom builder, if you're someone that is seeking to build the kingdom of God on earth as it is in heaven, why in the world would God not give you the opportunity, the ability, the finances in order to do that thing? I am a believer that if God continues to pour out, I'm going to continue to pour out to build his kingdom, as imperfectly as I do, right? I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. There's things in my life that I'm still working on in order to trust God more. But I'm at this stage in life where I've seen God's provision so many times that I don't want to be like the children of Israel wandering around in Egypt saying, God, it was better back in Egypt, right? It was better when you took us out of Egypt. We liked it better. There was leeks and onions. This desert is the pits. Don't want to be here right now. But that's not what I want in my life. I want to know that I am trusting God to the best of my ability and seeing his abundant provision. And man, when you start doing that, God shows up, God appears, God responds, and we reap the benefits as his sons and daughters, right? So take this little story, do with it what you will. Maybe it'll bless you. Hope it does. Pray it does. But if God is calling you to somewhere deeper, somewhere beyond what you imagined, and there's risk involved, but you feel God is calling you to it, walk by faith, not by sight. Walking by sight gets us nowhere. Walking by faith gets us into the perfect will of God. So I challenge you today, do the will of God, trust Him, have your trust be in the Lord, and you will not be anxious.